Commander Elias Blackwood straightened his formal diplomatic uniform and took a deep breath. After 15 years navigating the treacherous waters of interspecies diplomacy, this was by far his most challenging assignment. The Zephyrian Empire had remained isolated for centuries before suddenly requesting peace talks with Earth's coalition. "They're ready for you, Commander," his aide whispered, gesturing toward the massive crystalline doors of the Celestial Hall. Elias nodded and stepped forward as the doors parted, revealing a chamber that seemed carved from living light. Massive windows overlooked the swirling violet clouds of Zephyr Prime, casting an ethereal glow across the assembled dignitaries. But it was the figure seated on the raised dais that commanded his attention. Princess Callista of the Seventh Nebula, heir to the Zephyrian throne, was nothing like the briefings had described. Her luminescent skin shifted between shades of azure and silver with each movement. Where humans had hair, she possessed a crown of delicate tendrils that floated as if underwater, reacting to invisible currents of emotion. Most striking were her eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a perfect triangle, gleaming like polished obsidian and reflecting starlight from within. She was beautiful in a way that transcended species. "The human emissary approaches," announced a court official. "Commander Elias Blackwood of Earth's coalition." Elias bowed precisely as instructed. "I bring greetings and hopes for lasting peace between our peoples, Your Highness." Princess Callista's expression remained unreadable as she studied him. When she finally spoke, her voice carried musical undertones that his translator struggled to fully capture. Another human diplomat with empty promises. How predictable. Her tendrils flared slightly, betraying irritation despite her composed face. "Your predecessors offered much and delivered little." Elias maintained his diplomatic smile. "I assure you, Your Highness, I'm not my predecessors. The coalition is committed to genuine partnership." Bold words. Her lips curved into what might have been a smile on a human but revealed rows of small, pearlescent teeth. "Prove your worth, Commander. What do you know of Zephyrian culture that isn't in your diplomatic briefings?" The assembled court rustled with interest. This was clearly a test, one designed for him to fail. Elias recalled a classified file he discovered while preparing, ancient records recovered from a derelict Zephyrian vessel. Records that contained ceremonial language and royal naming conventions. He took a calculated risk. "I know, Calishandria Vextalin," he said quietly, using her ceremonial birth name, "that names hold power in your culture. That a true name shared is a bond formed." The chamber fell into shocked silence. The princess froze, her tendrils suddenly rigid. Her 3 eyes widened, all focusing intently on him with an intensity that made the air between them seem to crackle. "How?" she whispered, rising slowly from her throne. "No outsider has spoken that name in 1,000 years." The court erupted in whispers. Guards moved closer, hands on weapons. Elias maintained eye contact, heart hammering in his chest. "I come seeking genuine understanding, Your Highness. Not as a conqueror or a trickster, but as a bridge between worlds." Princess Callista descended the steps of her dais with fluid grace, approaching until she stood directly before him. Up close, he could see patterns shifting beneath her skin, constellations of light that formed and reformed with each heartbeat. "You have either committed the gravest insult or offered the highest honor," she said, her voice both threat and intrigue. "I have yet to decide which." "Then perhaps," Elias replied with more confidence than he felt, "we should begin these negotiations by discussing the power of names." For the first time, her expression showed genuine emotion, curiosity mixed with something unreadable. "Perhaps we should, Commander Blackwood," she agreed, with a slight incline of her head. "Perhaps we should." 2 weeks into the negotiations, Elias found himself in one of the Zephyrian Palace's private gardens, watching Princess Callista examine a holographic display of Earth's oceans with childlike fascination. "Your world is so wet," she remarked, her tendrils swaying gently in patterns he was beginning to recognize as delight. "Nearly 70% covered in water that you cannot even breathe. Says the woman whose atmosphere would dissolve my lungs in minutes without my adaptation serum," Elias replied with a smile, gesturing to the injection port on his neck. Their initial hostility had evolved into something unexpected, a cautious friendship built on private meetings away from the formal negotiations. Each day, they exchanged one cultural insight as a personal ritual. "My turn," Elias said, leaning against an arching structure that resembled coral but hummed with subtle energy. "What's the significance of the name I spoke?" I know it caused quite a stir, but the classified files didn't explain why. Callista's three eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture he now recognized as contemplation. In Zephyrian culture, we possess three names, she explained, her fingers trailing through the hologram, disrupting the projection of Earth's Pacific Ocean. Our public name, our family name, and our essence name. The third is spoken only at birth, death, and union ceremonies. She moved closer, her scent reminiscent of ozone after lightning. By speaking my essence name, you inadvertently proposed a soul bonding. Elias nearly choked. I proposed marriage? Not exactly. Her mouth curved, revealing those pearlescent teeth in what he now recognized as amusement. A soul bonding can be familial, diplomatic, or intimate. The context determines the nature. She studied his face. What intrigues me, Commander, is how you discovered it at all. Elias hesitated. A recovered artifact from a derelict vessel. I shouldn't have used it without understanding. Yet you did. Her middle eye narrowed slightly. Reckless. Effective, he countered. It got your attention. Indeed. She moved closer, her luminescent skin shifting to deeper blues. My question remains, what bond did you intend to form, speaking my essence name? The air between them seemed charged with electricity. Their diplomatic meetings had become increasingly personal, with lingering glances and conversations that stretched into the night cycle. I intended respect, Elias said carefully. I sought to show I valued your culture enough to learn its secrets. Callista's tendrils rippled in a pattern he couldn't interpret. Then allow me to teach you properly. She extended her hand, palm upward, revealing intricate patterns beneath her translucent skin. Place your hand on mine. Elias hesitated only briefly before placing his palm against hers. Her skin was cooler than human temperature, with a subtle vibration like silent music. Among my people, she said softly, this is how we begin to know one another's true nature. A tingling sensation spread up his arm, not unpleasant, but intense. Colors seemed to shift around them, and for a moment, Elias thought he could see constellations moving beneath her skin. What was that? He asked when she finally withdrew her hand. An exchange, Callista replied. I shared a fragment of my essence with you, and received a fragment of yours. Is that common practice? No. Her three eyes fixed on him with unsettling intensity. It is reserved for those with whom we intend to forge lasting connections. Before Elias could respond, her communication device chimed. Her expression shifted instantly to royal composure. The trade representatives await us, she said, her voice returning to its formal cadence. We should not keep them waiting. As they walked toward the council chambers, Elias became acutely aware of a subtle warmth pulsing from his palm, the lingering echo of their connection. Whatever diplomatic crisis awaited them seemed suddenly less significant than the private treaties they were beginning to negotiate between themselves. Tomorrow, Callista said quietly as they reached the chamber doors, I would learn one of your names, Commander Blackwood. Elias, he replied immediately. You can call me Elias. Her tendrils rippled in what might have been pleasure. Elias, she repeated, the word carrying musical undertones in her voice. Tomorrow, then. The doors opened to reveal the assembled diplomats, and they stepped forward together, no longer just representatives of their worlds, but something more complex and undefined. Alarms blared through the palace complex as Elias sprinted down the crystalline corridor, his diplomatic uniform abandoned for tactical gear. 3 hours earlier, the peace talks had dissolved into chaos when explosives detonated in the eastern wing. Commander. A junior officer intercepted him. We've secured transport off-world. The coalition insists you evacuate immediately. Where is Princess Callista? Elias demanded, ignoring the evacuation order. The royal family is implementing their own protocols, the officer replied stiffly. Our priority is your safety. Elias grabbed the officer's shoulder. Answer my question. The officer's expression shifted. Last communication placed her in the ancestral chambers, but... He hesitated, reports indicate those sections were specifically targeted. Elias was moving before the officer finished speaking, ignoring the shouts behind him. The past month of negotiations had revealed a deepening opposition to the peace process, but he'd never anticipated such a brazen attack. The ancestral chambers were located in the oldest section of the palace, a labyrinth of luminescent architecture that pulsed with its own bioelectric rhythm. As Elias navigated the increasingly deserted corridors, evidence of violence became apparent: scorch marks on walls, shattered crystal formations, and the unmistakable residue of energy weapons. He found her surrounded by 3 assassins in a circular chamber dominated by towering crystalline monoliths. Despite her royal upbringing, Callista was fighting with surprising ferocity, wielding a ceremonial staff that crackled with energy. One attacker already lay motionless, but the princess was clearly outmatched by the remaining 2. Elias didn't hesitate. Drawing his sidearm, he dropped one assailant with a precision shot. The distraction allowed Callista to disable the remaining attacker with a sweeping blow that left her momentarily breathless. Their eyes met across the chamber, all 3 of hers dilated with combat hormones and surprise. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her tendrils flaring with agitation. "Apparently saving you," Elias replied, crossing to her side. "We need to move. There could be more." "They're Severance," she said, indicating the fallen attackers. "Extremists who believe cross-species diplomacy will dilute our genetic purity." Elias examined the nearest attacker, humanoid like Callista, but with distinctive red markings beneath the skin. "Your own people." "A radical faction," she confirmed grimly. "They'll have compromised the standard evacuation routes." A distant explosion confirmed her assessment, sending tremors through the chamber. "I know another way," she said, her expression hardening. "But we must leave everything behind, your communication devices, my royal insignia. They can track them." Minutes later, they slipped through a concealed passage that led deep beneath the palace complex. Callista's bioluminescence provided their only light as they navigated ancient tunnels carved into the planet's crystal bedrock. "Where are we going?" Elias asked as they paused at an intersection. "The Undercaves," she replied, her voice echoing strangely. "My ancestors used them as sanctuaries during the Nebula Wars. Few remember they exist." As they descended deeper, the air grew heavy with unfamiliar scents. The architecture transitioned from refined crystal to raw, pulsing stone that seemed almost alive. "This place is sacred," Callista explained, noticing his fascination. "The living heart of our world." "It's beautiful," Elias admitted, watching patterns of light ripple through the stone in response to their presence. "You're bleeding," she suddenly observed, gesturing to a tear in his uniform where a weapon had grazed his side. "It's nothing," he insisted, though the wound burned with increasing intensity. Callista's expression turned worried. "Our weapons carry neurotoxins designed for Zephyrian physiology. For a human." She didn't finish the sentence. The implication settled over him as a wave of dizziness confirmed her fears. "How long?" "Hours, perhaps," she said softly. "Unless." "Unless what?" Her tendrils writhed with what he now recognized as internal conflict. "There is a way, a biological exchange that might neutralize the toxin. But it requires deep connection, an intimacy my people rarely share with outsiders." Another wave of dizziness hit him, stronger this time. The poison was working quickly. "I trust you," Elias said simply, reaching for her hand. Callista's 3 eyes widened, then softened. "Not here," she replied, supporting him as another tremor shook his body. "There's a sacred chamber ahead where the energies will support the process." As they moved deeper into the pulsing heart of the Undercaves, Elias found himself dependent on her strength, their roles reversed from moments earlier. The poison spread through his system, bringing waves of pain that he fought to mask. "Hold on," Callista whispered, her voice strangely intimate in the crystal darkness. "Just a little further, Elias." His name on her lips sounded like music, perhaps the last music he would ever hear. The sacred chamber pulsed with bioluminescence, a perfect sphere carved from living crystal. At its center stood a pool of liquid that glowed with an inner light, casting rippling patterns across the walls. Outside, the distant sounds of pursuit had faded, but Elias barely registered this improvement in their tactical situation. The neurotoxin had progressed, leaving his extremities numb and his vision blurring at the edges. Callista lowered him gently beside the pool, her tendrils moving with agitated concern. "This is Luxvora, essence water," she explained, dipping her fingers into the luminous liquid. "It amplifies biological connections and acts as a catalyst for deep healing." "I'm not sure. I can swim right now," Elias managed through gritted teeth. A smile flickered across her alien features. No swimming required. She placed her moistened fingers against his forehead, and a pleasant coolness spread from the contact point. The ritual is more intimate. With practiced movements, she began removing the ceremonial outer layers of her attire, revealing the intricate patterns that flowed beneath her translucent skin. Elias watched, mesmerized despite his pain, as constellations seemed to shift and dance across her form. "In my culture," she said softly, helping him remove his tactical gear, "healing and intimacy are inseparable. Life energies must flow freely between participants." "That sounds suspiciously convenient," he attempted to joke, though it emerged as little more than a pained whisper. Her 3 eyes crinkled with genuine amusement. "Even dying, you maintain your skepticism." Her expression softened. "But I speak truth. The essence exchange that will neutralize the toxin requires the most profound connection two beings can share." When they were both prepared, she guided him to the edge of the glowing pool. The liquid was neither hot nor cold, but tingled against his skin like gentle electricity. "Essence water reveals our true forms," Callista explained, her voice taking on a ritual cadence. "It strips away physical and psychological barriers." As she spoke, the patterns beneath her skin intensified, flowing like liquid starlight. Elias felt a corresponding warmth spread through his own body, pushing back against the creeping numbness of the toxin. "There will be no secrets between us after this," she warned, her tendrils reaching to caress his face with surprising tenderness. "Are you certain?" Despite everything, the assassination attempt, the pain, the impossible circumstances of their meeting, Elias found absolute clarity in this moment. "I've never been more certain," he replied, reaching up to trace the contours of her luminescent face. Callista smiled, then spoke a sequence of musical sounds that his translator couldn't process. "I have given you my essence name," she explained. "Now I give you my essence itself." She guided him fully into the pool, where the liquid embraced them both in weightless suspension. The moment their bodies connected, Elias gasped as sensations flooded through him, not just physical pleasure, but cascading waves of memory and emotion that weren't his own. He saw Callista's childhood through her three-faceted vision, felt the weight of royal expectation, experienced the loneliness of her position. Each memory flowed into him as their bodies moved together in perfect harmony, their physiological differences becoming complementary rather than obstacles. In return, he felt her experiencing his memories, his Earth childhood, the loss of his parents, his dedication to diplomacy born from personal tragedy. Nothing remained hidden between them as the essence water facilitated a connection transcending physical intimacy. The poison in his system met resistance as Callista's biology interfaced with his own, her natural immunities flowing into him through their connection. Pain retreated before waves of mounting pleasure as their bodies found a shared rhythm, moving as one being beneath the luminous surface. "Kalishandria Vextalin," he whispered her essence name as understanding deepened between them. "Elias Nathaniel Blackwood," she responded, somehow knowing his full name without being told. Their union reached its crescendo as twin moons rose above the distant surface, their gravitational influence felt even in the depths of the undercaves. The pool around them pulsed in response, amplifying their connection until the boundaries between them seemed to dissolve entirely. When they finally emerged, Elias realized the poison had been completely neutralized. More than that, he felt fundamentally changed, as if parts of Callista now lived within him, and parts of himself within her. "What happens now?" he asked, watching the patterns beneath her skin gradually settle into new configurations. Callista traced a finger along his chest, where faint luminescence now mirrored her own bioluminescent patterns. "Now we are Lux Atom, essence bonded," she said with wonder in her voice. "Among my people, this is rarer than any political alliance. We carry fragments of each other that can never be reclaimed." "Do you regret it?" he asked, suddenly uncertain. Her 3 eyes fixed on him with absolute clarity. "My only regret is that it took an assassination attempt to bring us here." She leaned forward, pressing her forehead against his in a Zephyrian gesture of profound affection. "The question that remains is whether our worlds are ready for what we have become." Outside their sanctuary, the sounds of systematic searching grew closer, a reminder that their moment of connection existed within a larger conflict that remained unresolved. "I suppose we're about to find out," Elias replied, his fingers intertwining with hers as they prepared to face whatever came next, not as separate representatives of their worlds, but as something unprecedented in the history of either species. 3 days after their essence bonding, Elias and Callista emerged from the undercaves through an ancient access point miles from the palace. The capital city of Zephyr Prime stretched before them, its crystalline spires glittering in the light of twin setting moons. The Grand Assembly convenes at dawn, Callista said, her three eyes scanning the horizon. If the Severance have truly infiltrated the Royal Guard, that's where they'll make their final move. Elias nodded, feeling the subtle new awareness that connected him to her emotions, a lingering effect of their union. Since their essence bonding, he'd discovered other changes: enhanced night vision, increased sensitivity to electromagnetic fields, and faint luminescent patterns that appeared beneath his skin when his emotions intensified. "We'll need allies," he said, touching the communication device they'd crafted from undercave crystals. Someone in the Coalition embassy must have remained loyal. Within hours, they had assembled a small force of trusted individuals, a mix of Zephyrian moderates and Earth Coalition personnel who had resisted evacuation. The evidence they had gathered during their journey through the ancient tunnel systems provided irrefutable proof of the conspiracy. "The peace accord must be signed before the third moon rises," explained Callista to their assembled allies. "According to our laws, that's when the current diplomatic window closes. If we fail, it could be generations before another attempt is possible." Dawn broke over the capital as they implemented their plan. While their allies created a diversion at the southern entrance of the Grand Assembly, Elias and Callista infiltrated through a forgotten ceremonial passage revealed in the ancestral memories she had shared with him. They emerged behind the great dais just as the Severant leader, Callista's own cousin, Thaxos, prepared to announce the princess's death and the subsequent cancellation of the peace process. "Your announcement is premature," Callista declared, stepping into view with Elias at her side. The assembly erupted in chaos. Thaxos's expression contorted with rage as guards moved to surround the dais. "Seize them," he commanded. "The princess has been compromised, look at the human contamination upon her skin." But as the guards approached, they hesitated, noticing the matching bioluminescent patterns that flowed beneath both Callista's and Elias's skin, unmistakable evidence of an essence bond. "By the first light," whispered one of the elder council members, "they are Lux Atom." Murmurs spread through the assembly as understanding dawned. In Zephyrian culture, those who shared an essence bond were considered sacred, their union blessed by cosmic forces beyond political manipulation. Thaxos, realizing his advantage slipping away, drew a ceremonial blade. "She betrays our genetic purity. The human has corrupted her." "No," Callista's voice rang out, amplified by the chamber's perfect acoustics. "He completed me, as I completed him. Our union represents what these peace talks truly mean, not contamination, but complementary strength." As Thaxos lunged forward, Elias moved with unexpected speed, another gift of the essence bond, disarming the Zephyrian with a fluid motion that seemed impossible for a human. The blade clattered to the crystal floor as royal guards, recognizing the legitimacy of Callista's claim, surrounded Thaxos and his co-conspirators. "The ancient texts speak of such bonds," declared the High Archivist, stepping forward to examine the matching patterns beneath their skin. "Not corruption, but evolution. The next step in our cosmic journey." Hours later, as the third moon crested the horizon, the peace accord was signed, with one significant addition. A new protocol establishing cultural exchange programs between Zephyrians and humans, with Elias and Callista named as official ambassadors of interspecies understanding. The formal ceremony concluded, they found themselves alone on a balcony overlooking the capital, 3 moons illuminating the crystal city below. "So," Elias said, his fingers tracing the patterns on Callista's arm that matched his own, "what now, Your Highness?" "Now," she replied, her tendrils moving in what he recognized as contentment, "we build something unprecedented. The first true bridge between our worlds." "Sounds challenging," he said with a smile. "Undoubtedly." Her 3 eyes sparkled with humor and affection. "But we've faced worse. Or have you forgotten the assassins already?" "I haven't forgotten anything," Elias replied softly, drawing her closer. Since their essence bonding, his memories had intertwined with hers, creating a shared history that transcended their short time together. "That's rather the point. The council expects me to maintain royal tradition," she said, a hint of worry creeping into her voice. "A Zephyrian consort, Zephyrian heirs." "And what do you want?" he asked, already sensing her answer through their bond. Her tendrils reached out to caress his face in the intimate gesture they had developed. "I want what we've already begun. Something new. Something that honors tradition while creating its own path." From the ceremonial chambers below, music began to rise, a strange but harmonious blending of Zephyrian tonal resonances and human instrumentation. The first cultural collaboration of the new piece. I spoke your true name as a diplomatic tactic, Elias mused, pulling her gently into a dance that matched the music's rhythm. I never imagined where it would lead. Perhaps our true names always lead us where we're meant to go, Callista replied, her body moving in perfect synchronization with his, the patterns beneath their skin pulsing in matching rhythm. We simply have to be brave enough to speak them. As they danced beneath 3 moons, representatives of worlds that had been strangers mere months before, their luminescent patterns flared in shared emotion. The essence bond between them hummed with possibility, not just for themselves, but for the civilizations they represented. Kali Chandri of Extalon, he whispered, no longer a challenge but a promise. Elias Nathaniel Blackwood, she answered in kind, her 3 eyes holding his gaze with perfect understanding. Whatever challenges awaited them, cultural differences, biological adaptations, political resistance, they would face them as neither fully human nor fully Zephyrian, but as something gloriously, imperfectly new. The first of many bridges between distant stars.